Hello, everybody. So, I want to give more thoughts about my truly conclusive ranking and, I guess, final statement on The Boys of Dungeon Lane by Paul McCartney. And I want to answer the question that many people are having about this album. And that's, is this a truly classic Paul McCartney album? And is this a masterpiece? And is this one of Paul's greatest albums? And to all of those questions, I say yes. Because when I think of Paul's best solo albums, and when I think of his masterpieces, I think of albums like Band on the Run, obviously wins, but also albums like Flaming Pie. And I think this album, New, is not quite a masterpiece, but it's close to being there. And I think of my favorite album of all time by Paul, or anybody really, Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. And those albums that I mentioned, they are such brilliant masterpieces by Paul because it's Paul at an elder age reflecting back on his life and doing so while playing lush, beautiful music. Flaming Pie, of course, is from 1997 and came right after the Beatles anthology and came right after inducting his friend John Lennon into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 14 years after his very senseless and tragic murder. And of course, after the anthology, he was thinking back on his early life, and it was a quote from John Lennon that inspired the title of the album, Flaming Pie, because somebody once asked John Lennon foolishly how he got the name The Beatles. And John Lennon, like the other three Beatles, always a jokester with these ridiculous reporters, made up this story that he had a vision or dream that someone said to him, "From now on, you will be Beatles with an A." And they said this to him on a flaming pie. And that's where Paul got the title. Although the song Flaming Pie doesn't have anything to do with the Beatles. The song Flaming Pie itself is just full of nonsense lyrics that are about making love. I'm not making it up, it's just blatantly in there in the lyrics. But the first track on that album is called The Songs We Were Singing, and it's all about John and himself just talking about philosophy, talking about life, talking about other things, but it always came back to the songs we were singing, so he sings. And the album Kiss Creation in the Backyard is my favorite of all time because it's not just that Paul's looking back on his life, he's looking back on his life with Linda. Because I believe that there are multiple songs on there about her. 2 songs, really. The song How Kind of You is just outstanding, incredible, and a little bit eerie. And it's clearly, in my opinion, about her. Because he's singing about how he felt counted out. You know, a referee had called the game over. And then somebody was there for him as he sings. And I think it's pretty obvious that person was Linda, not Heather Mills. It was Linda, who, you know, after the Beatles broke up, Paul didn't want the band to break up, and Paul was depressed, feeling like without that band, his life is meaningless. And then it was Linda who said, "You're a songwriter. You can write songs again." And then he started to do just that. And that song, How Kind of You, is an ode to her. And another song on that album that's about Linda, in my opinion, is Promise to You, Girl, which is the most jaunty song on that album. And it's all about how, you know, every single second of our lives we can use to chase the clouds away, he sings. And he's singing about how I made this promise to you, girl, I don't want to take it back. And while we don't know what the details of that are, I think what he's referring to is that he and Linda would often, in the 90s, they did this activism to raise awareness about animal rights and not eating meat. And I think maybe the song is all about Linda and the promise they made to change the world, as he sings about in that song. And that's why I think that Paul was thinking about Linda on that album. But, the big reason that I think that album is the greatest ever is because on those songs, he's very intimate about what's going on in his life and vulnerable. There's a song on there that people say is about Heather Mills called Riding to Vanity Fair. He starts off with a song called Fine Line, which is about two people who are estranged. And I've heard a rumor from somebody online who told me that it was about he and his son James, who were probably estranged after he married Heather Mills. And his daughters and his son hated Heather Mills and didn't want him to marry her. So he may have been estranged from his son due to that. And, someone online also told me that the final song on the album anyway is about his son James also. But anyway, what I wanted to discuss in this video is, does the new album, The Boys of Dungeon Lane, does it stack up against Chaos and Flaming Pie and Memory Almost Full as a masterpiece that will be remembered many years from now as a brilliant album from Paul? My answer to that is, of course, yes. I say that with only 7 listens to this album so far. But I think for me, most of the time, I don't need to know an album for months and months and months to conclude that it's a masterpiece. When I was 15, I got the John Lennon album, Walls and Bridges. After one listen, I was thinking, oh, this is a masterpiece, because on these songs, John Lennon runs through the gamut of emotions and is telling the listener about what was going through his mind when he was separated from Yoko Ono. And he does so with, beautiful, lush songs and rockin' fun songs. And on this album, Paul is giving you several great rockers in the styles of Wing songs. As You Lie There is a rockin' song. Ripples in a Pond is a really catchy pop rock song. We Too is fun. Come Inside is a rocker. Never Know is fun. Home to Us is just catchy, fun pop. Mountaintop is a psychedelic rocker that is absolutely incredible. And then you've got personal, intimate songs like Days We Left Behind. Down South is about George and their friendship when they were young. Life Can Be Hard is Life Can Be Hard Life Can Be Hard is brilliant because there aren't many other Paul songs to compare it to. As I mentioned before, it's kind of similar to Baby's Request and Honey Pie in that it's in the style of a 1940s song or 1920s song. But in other ways, it sounds like nothing Paul has done before. It is a little bit like you gave me the answer, but I don't see You Gave Me the Answer being in a film or a Broadway show. Life Can Be Hard has that feel, and Paul does seem like someone who's been wanting to write a Broadway show forever, and we've heard rumors that he's writing songs for a Broadway version of It's a Wonderful Life. And of course, there are, like I said, there are personal songs in the album. Salesman Saint, about his parents. Mama Gets By. Probably about a fictional mother. I think it's about the typical mother in the world. I think that the mother in that song is a stand-in for every mother in the world. And I keep getting off topic here. But yes, I do think this album already is a classic McCartney album and is a brilliant masterpiece of a Paul McCartney album. And yes, I say that with only 7 full listens, but I don't think that I need 37 listens to conclude that. I think it's because this album touches on those themes of your childhood, teenage youth, and touches on those typical themes of love and friendship, and also has these catchy rocking songs and psychedelic songs. I think because it has all those things, that it's considered a classic. Similar to how the Flaming Pie album had this great mix of, some rocking songs and also really downbeat, melancholy songs like Little Willow, a song Paul wrote to console the children of Ringo Starr, whose first wife just passed away of cancer. I think it was cancer. And there's a gorgeous song in that album that I love called Souvenir. And so like I was saying, the best McCartney albums, the most classic McCartney albums, have that mix of fun rocking songs as well as more melancholy songs. And on the album New, he does have a few songs in there looking back at his youth with the song Early Days, singing about his early days as a musician with George and John. And that's the first song where Paul sounds like he's gotten older. It sounds like he's not hiding that old voice. Similar to how several songs on this new album, he's not hiding the voice. And so like I said, I would definitely rank this album as high as Chaos, as Flaming Pie, and as high as Memory Almost Fall. Although I do think this new album, it might be even better than Memory Almost Fall. I think it's even better than that one. I think it is better. But Memory Almost Fall is just absolutely brilliant. Let me show it to you for a moment. There's the 2 CD box set, Memory Almost Fall, with 13 tracks, and then 3 bonus tracks on the bonus CD. It is the absolutely lamest cover photo that Paul ever did for an album. It's just a relaxing chair. That's probably the cheapest thing he could have done for an album. What should we do for the cover photo? Let's bring a chair out. Oh, brilliant! This from the same person who made a compilation set of Wings hit songs. And then they literally had somebody take a camera and then go out and film that sculpture or whatever it is that you can't even see right now, way out in the Swiss Alps. He did that for a compilation album, but for a studio album, hey, it's just a chair. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I just wanted to say that yes, I do think that The Boys Learn to Lane is as much of a brilliant classic masterpiece as Chaos, as Flaming Pie, and as Memory Almost Full. Which I do rank as 4 of the best Paul McCartney albums, and now I add The Boys Learn to Lane to the list of the best McCartney albums. So those are all my thoughts on that. I don't want to meander too much. So thank you all for watching, and let me know in the comments if you agree this is a classic McCartney album. Thank you.